going to be covering just some tips and tricks to do more in less time. We'll quickly cover the quick access toolbar, the ribbon, and the key tips. And then we're really going to dive into formatting, talk about some style sheets, themes, what the difference between the two are, a little bit about how you can easily create bullets, headers, footers, quick parts. If we have time, we'll also talk about tracking changes in Microsoft Word, and also about Smart Art, which is an easy way to present data graphically in Microsoft Word. And Smart Art always makes your documents seem very impressive. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I am going to go ahead and open up Microsoft Word on my desktop. And before we continue, I'm just going to submit a quick poll here and make sure that everyone can see Microsoft Word on my screen. So if you can go ahead and answer that question, I would appreciate that. And then the next question is going to just verify that the audio is okay and that everyone can hear me. Okay, so I think just about everyone has voted, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. And now we'll just verify the audio quality and make sure that it's okay. Okay, we still have a couple people with no sound. Oscar, I'm just going to, if those people with no sound, let's see, I can't really talk to them, can I? Okay, so I know you can't hear me, but if you could just raise your hand in the control panel, Oscar can follow up with you. For the people that can hear me but need me to speak just a little bit louder, I did turn up my headset, so hopefully that will help. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close that poll and get started. Okay, so on my screen, this is Microsoft Word. I know that a lot of you have been in the previous sessions about Excel and Outlook, and we talked a little bit about the ribbon and the quick access toolbar. I don't want to rehash all that information, but I do want to talk a little bit about how the ribbon appears in Microsoft Word. So if you remember from Microsoft Word 2003, there were much different commands going across the top of the screen. We talked about why Microsoft reorganized it, which was just to help people learn the software and to make it a little bit more intuitive. And so the Home tab will control or will hold the information that Microsoft thinks is most valuable to you and that you use the most often. So you can consider your Home tab as your frequently used tab. Insert is going to be where you go to insert anything into the document. So whether it's a picture, a chart, or header or a footer, you're going to insert items. Page layout is where you'd go to actually work with the page. So that's going to be your margins, whether you want it to appear vertically or horizontally, and also the spacing of your text. So if things should be single-spaced or double-spaced. You have your references, and we're going to talk a little bit about references and table of contents later. You have your mailings tab, where it just holds information for doing mail merges. We will not be covering mail merges today, but if that's something you're interested in, again, please submit that request, and we can certainly schedule something for mail merges. The Review tab, which I'm hoping if we have time, we'll be able to cover how to track changes in Microsoft Word. View, which just changes the way Microsoft or the document appears on your screen. Developer, which most people probably don't have activated, but you can create fields and macros through the Developer tab. You also have your quick access toolbar, which again are just shortcuts of items that you use the most frequently. And you have your file or your backstage view. And the file and backstage view is where you can go to set your default options. You can also, before you send a document to someone, you can protect the document and you can check for issues. So you can make sure that people are going to be able to see it, open the document, and read the document. So in addition to the home screen or the home ribbon tab and seeing the font information here in the home tab, Microsoft also created a little pop-out menu within the body of Word itself. So if I double-click on a word and then I just scroll up, a little mini formatting toolbar appears, and this will give me my most frequently used font settings. In addition to the menus and the toolbars, you also have your key tips available. And the way that you can activate the key tips is to just press the Alt key on your keyboard. And when you do that, new icons will appear next to each tab. So for example, next to page layout, there's a P. So if I click on P, it will open up that page layout ribbon for me. And I can continue to navigate throughout the system like this. If we come back to the Home tab, and I have my document, and this document is not formatted. So we're going to spend the rest of the session going through and formatting this document and looking at different ways to make that easy for you to complete. So the first thing I noticed is that all of the text is the same size and color. So I think we should apply a style to it. Styles are an easy way for you to set specific text to be a certain type of data. So I'm going to choose declare freedom from high costs and risk by throwing out data now. So I'm going to select that text, and this is a recent newsletter article, so I'm going to make this my heading. And I'm going to scroll up to the top in the ribbon, and I'm just going to put my cursor over heading 1. As soon as I do that, Microsoft Word will preview what that line of text is going to look like once I click on heading 1. And I think that looks pretty good, so I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. Now, I can see in my paragraph or my formatting that I have some extra space above my heading 1. I don't really have a whole lot of space below it between the paragraph and heading 1. So I want to change the heading 1 style so I have more spacing above and below it. So to do that, I am going to go to my page layout, and then I'm going to go to my paragraph group. I can see the spacing is set to before, so before this line, add 24 of space, and below it I have 0. So I'm just going to set this to be auto on the bottom and 12 on the top. And that gives me a little bit more spacing. Now I can come back to the Home tab, and I can tell Microsoft Word that I want all future heading 1s to appear this way. And I'm going to do that by just right-clicking on heading 1, and then choosing Update Heading 1 to match selection. Now, if I highlight this item again, and I change it back to normal, and I highlight it again and change it back to heading 2, it automatically formats it for me. This second paragraph, I think this is going to be a heading 2. So it's sort of like a secondary headline. So I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to choose heading 2. And you can see that it automatically formats it with a specific font, size, it bolds it, and it turns it a lighter blue. I can go back to my page layout. I can choose my paragraph settings. I can go back to my home, and let's say that I don't want this to appear in blue, but instead I want it to appear in orange. I can right-click on Heading 2, update Heading 2 to match selection. And now I'm set. On the second page, I have another article. So I'm just going to scroll down to that second page. And again, I'm going to highlight my header. I'm going to click on Heading 1. It automatically formats it for me. I'm going to select Heading 2, click on Heading 2, and it automatically formats it for me. If I come back up to my first page, we can read through the text, and we can see that there are some areas that should be bulleted. So a really easy way for me to bullet is to just press the asterisk key on my keyboard and hit space. And that will automatically bullet or insert a bullet for me. So I'm going to do that again. I'm just going to put my cursor at the beginning of the line. I'm going to hit asterisk and space, and it'll automatically bullet. I'm going to get rid of these bullets just by backspacing out of them. And I can also bullet by highlighting the text that I want to bullet, coming into my paragraph settings, and clicking bullet. If I want to add an additional line of data, I can just hit enter. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, so in addition to my styles, if I wanted to change my styles, or Microsoft Office comes preloaded with a lot of different styles and color formats already. So an easy way, or a way that I recommend that you create professional looking documents and consistent looking documents within your organization would be to pick a theme and a style and for everyone to use it. So that way it doesn't matter whether I'm sending out a document or if Oscar is sending out a document to you. Everything is formatted the same way. The colors are consistent with our firm colors or with our branding. And it makes it a lot easier to go back and to update items later when everything is formatted and set correctly. We did have a question come in about how you change spacing between bulleted items. So let's just cover that real quick before we move on. So if I highlight this area, or the area that I want to change, I can go back to my page layout and go to my paragraph. And if I expand this out with my dialog launcher, I can see the spacing before 0. So I'm going to change that to 6. Spacing after is 10. And then I'm going to uncheck Don't Add Space Between Paragraphs of the Same Style and click OK. And now that will give me a bulleted list that's a little bit prettier. So I hope that answers your question. In addition to Microsoft Office coming out preloaded with style changes, if you have your document formatted like this, you can change your styles easily. So right now I have the Word 2010 style selected, but if I click on Modern, you'll see that it will automatically reformat my document according to that modern style. And if I go down to page 2, the same is, it's the same case. So that's going to make it a lot easier for you to format your documents. You don't have to highlight it, go up to your font, make sure that the font is set correctly, the color is set, the size is set. You just basically select the font that you want to, or the type of data that you want to change, and then specify the style. In addition to styles, you also have themes. So the difference between a style and a theme is that a style, you're working with specific sets of data, and a theme, you're working with the entire document. So right now, I think I have the office theme selected, but I can go into maybe the composite theme, and it will change the colors and change all the formatting throughout the document. The next thing I noticed that we're missing here is my header and my footer. Now I want to insert my company logo into my header, so I can access the header area by clicking on Insert and then going to Header and Footer, and I can either choose a predefined header, or I can click on Edit Header and it will just open up that area. I myself prefer, if I just close out of there, just to double click in the header area, and that will also open up the header. So the first thing I want to do is insert an image, and you can see that I have an on-demand tab or a contextual tab from Microsoft giving me all the items that it thinks I need to use when I'm working with the header. So I'm going to click on Insert Picture, and I'm going to choose our company logo. Now that I have the company logo or an image open, you'll see that I have two on-demand tabs, or two contextual tabs. One for a header and a footer, and then one for working with the image. So if I wanted to, I could set a border, I could set the picture effects, I can crop the image, and I can also set my text wrapping. If I wanted to change the margin on my header, I can go into the header and footer tools and go to Design, and then increase the amount of space that I'm giving myself. Now the next thing I want to do is add my company information. And although I could just start typing in this header area, I find it easiest to insert a text box and then put the company information inside that text box. So I'm going to go to Insert, Text Box. I can choose a pre-made text box, but for this case, I'm just going to draw my own. I can put my cursor in the text box and type my company name and my contact information. If I wanted to, I could also put a document title in here. I'm just going to right align that. And then I don't want the border to appear, so I'm just going to right click on it, and you see I have a new tab for formatting. And I could go to Shape Outline and choose None, or I could right click and go to Format Shape and choose to remove the outline from there as well. Now that I'm done working with this text box, I'm just going to click outside of it. And then I'm going to close my header and footer area. And now I have my header and my header set up. I noticed that we probably need a little bit more margin here. So I'm just going to go to Page Layout, Margins, Custom Margins, and I'm just going to increase my margin. I have a question about how do we keep the picture crisp instead of being dulled. That's a really good question. As soon as you insert an image into Microsoft Word, it will immediately downgrade it to a lower quality, and they do that to make the document load faster. So I can, with the presentation slides, send out some tricks or some tips for what recommended sizes for your document or for your image, and that should help. Normally I don't have that problem too often unless the image is being constantly resized within Word. So if I come back into this image, you can see that I have Common Sense Solutions and I have my picture tools. I can set the height and the width here, and it will automatically resize it accordingly. So sometimes I see a lot of loss when it's a small image and someone is trying to make it much larger. I can also crop the image here. I know this isn't something everyone will use, but you'll see that I have little guides appear on the screen. So I can just drag it in. Here it is. And you'll see that the area I'm cropping out will turn gray. And now if I want to accept that change, I just click outside of the image. And now you'll see that I have no white space to the left of the swish. So I hope that answers your question. If not, please let me know after the session. Okay, so I've created my header. Let's move on to the footer. So from here, in my header and footer tools, I can either go to footer, or again, I could double click in that area. I can click on insert footer, and I can choose a predefined list, a predefined footer, or I can insert my own footer from scratch. So I'm just going to choose this one with the blank 3 columns. And the first one I'm going to do is just a copyright. So Microsoft Office comes preloaded with certain auto text features. So if I type in parentheses, C, and then end parentheses, it'll automatically format it to a copyright symbol for me. And these are controlled by going into Insert, Quick Parts, Auto Text. So this is going to be where you have your list of auto text. So I'm just going to do Insert, Copyright, and then Common Sense Solutions. On my next column, I want to insert a page number. So I can go to Insert Page Number. The page number shortcut's also available under the header and footer tool. And I'm just going to insert a plain number in the current position. And then in this last area, I want, since it's going to be an internal document, I want to track where this document is saved on the server. So again, this is a quick part, and I'm going to choose a field. And then from here, I'm going to click on Document Information and choose my file name. I could also choose the author, the title, specific keywords. I can choose how it's format, so I want it to be in title case, and now I can click OK, and it will automatically insert the name of the document. If I also wanted to insert the path of where that document is on the network, then I can right-click in this area around the title and go to Edit Fields, and then check the box for Add Path to File Name. And then the column is a little bit off, but you can see that it's in my user folder on the U drive. So I'm just going to go ahead and edit this and remove it. I think there was a question about how to unlink one page footer from another. So if I look at here at this page, I'm on page 1, I have my footer. If I scroll down to page 2, I have my second footer. So in order to unlink these, I need to insert a section break. So I'm going to do that by going to going to Page Layout, Break, and then Section Break. And now when I scroll down and I look at my header, I'll see Footer Section 2 and same as previous. Now if I come up into my header and footer toolbar, I can uncheck the link or the option to link to previous, and maybe this time I'll insert my year. So page 2 has copyright 2014, page 1 just has copyright Common Sense Solutions. So that's how you unlink a footer. You add a section break, and that's the key. You have to add a section break, and then you unlink the 2 footers. If you wanted to link the 2 back together, you just come back in here and do link to previous. and you'll get a warning that, are you sure you want to do this, and it's going to change it. So I'm just going to click no here. So I hope that answers your question. If not, let me know. Okay. So next thing we're going to talk about is just how to track changes in Microsoft Office. So I have my document formatted. Maybe I'm going to send it to someone else to look at. So when I do that, I want to turn on tracking changes. So that when this person looks at it, they can make comments. So maybe they're going to highlight this, insert a comment, and maybe say, this seems a little wordy. Can we change it? It will also track any edits they do to the document. So maybe I can say, do you have mountains and mountains of information stored on your server? I can also notice that maybe headaches has a hyphen where it shouldn't, and so I can do some editing, and it will track all the changes. So now when I get this document back, I can control whether or not I want to see these changes. So if I click my drop-down next to Final Showing Markup, I can see what it originally was, what it was with their changes, and how the client will see it with all of the changes completed. So I like viewing it under Final Show Markup. And now I can go through each comment and each change, and I can choose whether to accept it or I can reject it. So the first one is, this seems a little wordy, can we change it? I don't really think so. So I'm going to just reject it and move to the next one. The next change is, do you have mountains and mountains of information? I think that's wordy, so I'm going to reject this change as well. My next change is headaches does not have a hyphen, and I'm going to accept that change. So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to click on accept and move to next. And now next I have because does not highlight hyphens, and I'm going to accept that change as well. So now that I have finalized all my changes, I can turn off tracking changes, and I can also see the final and save it. The next thing I want to talk about is SmartArt. So SmartArt, again, I mentioned, is a really neat way to add data to your document in a graphic way. So if we just insert a new page here, let me go to page layout and then break. There was a question, can you accept all changes at once? And I believe you can. If you go to accept, you can just choose to accept all changes in the document. And if you go to reject, you can reject all changes in the document. Okay, so I've created a new page, and let me just get this in ahead of it. And for my header, I want to talk about this webinar series. So I think this was called the Skill Builder Webinar Series. And in it, I want to graphically represent the different webinars that are available. So to do that, I'm going to use a SmartArt, and I'm going to click on Insert and then choose SmartArt. And so here I can choose a SmartArt graphic. So I think that this is a process that you're going to start with the Excel, move on to Outlook, and then finish up with Word, and then you will have completed the Skill Builder series. So I'm going to choose this arrow one and click OK. So it will automatically insert the SmartArt into the document. It will open up a new tab for me for my SmartArt tab, for my SmartArt icons and commands. So if I look at what tools are available to me, I can switch the arrow from right to left to right. I can also change the layout. So maybe instead I want it to appear with circles. Or I can change the formatting of the arrows. To actually insert text into each box, I'm going to click on the little tab that kind of sticks outside on the end or on the left-hand side of this text box. That will open up a little window and a little wizard for me to build my arrows. So the first webinar we completed was Microsoft Excel, and then we went on to Microsoft Outlook, and then Microsoft Word. If I wanted to create another bullet point, I could just hit Enter, and maybe next time we'll add one about PowerPoint. And you can see that it automatically resizes and reformats the paragraphs and the image to fit the text that I'm adding. If I wanted to add sub-bullet points to note what we'll cover in each session, so for example, in MS Excel, I can hit Enter and then hit Tab to make a child bullet. And in Microsoft Excel, we talked about pivot tables, and we talked about formulas. In Microsoft Outlook, again, I'm just going to hit Enter and then hit Tab. And we talked about reply with meeting, and we talked about quick steps. In Microsoft Word, we talked about SmartArt. If I accidentally bullet something and I don't want it bulleted, I can hit Shift-Tab to move it back into the first line of items. And that's going to be the case whenever you're working with bullets. You can always hit Tab to indent the bullets and Shift-Tab to decrease the bullet indent. And I don't know about you, but I think this is pretty hard to read. So to close this window, I'm just going to click on the X. And if I want to get it back, I just click on this tab. I think it's pretty hard to read, so I'm going to come up to change colors, and I can make it more colorful. Or I can change the way it appears altogether. So I think SmartArt is really cool and something that's very easy to use. I use it all the time, especially when I'm doing training documents and I'm trying to explain a process of how you move from one step to the next step. Next, I want to talk about how you can insert a cover page and a table of contents. So I'm going to insert my cover page just by inserting a page break. So I'm going to go to Page Layout and then Breaks and then a page break. And I'm going to hold this page open for my table of contents. Next, I'm going to click, so we'll just do that first. Sorry, I kind of got ahead of myself. So I'm on my table of contents. So to insert my table of contents, I'm going to go to References and then Table of Contents, and I can just click on Insert or select one that's already been built for me from Microsoft. And you can see that it will automatically build in my table of contents. So it looks for the styles that you have set. So if you remember us talking about at the beginning of the webinar how you can set your heading 1 and your heading 2 styles, it automatically takes all of your heading 1s and inserts it as is kind of like the most important chapters. And then under each heading 1 where you have a heading 2, it also adds that to the table of contents. So I think that this Do You Have Mountains of Information stored on your server, that's just a little bit too long to add to my table of contents. So instead, I can scroll down to my page. Did I go too far? And I can maybe hit Enter here or make this a paragraph. And then add a new sentence for heading 2. So maybe it will be recommendations on what to save. I can highlight it, click on heading 2, and it's added and formatted. Now if I go up to my table of contents, you'll see that this hasn't been updated yet, but I can update it by clicking in the table of contents and then clicking on Update Table. I'm going to be prompted, okay, do you want to update the page numbers only, or do you want to update the entire table? I'm going to say Update the entire table and click OK, and it automatically picks up my changes. If I had made any content changes where things were going to the next page, so maybe instead of how to use your client list to improve Facebook ads, maybe that would get pushed to page 5. A lot of times I go out to visit clients and I see them manually creating this table of contents. You don't need to do it if you're using style sheets. And it makes it incredibly easy to manage and update. Okay, so now let's get back to our cover page. So I'm just going to click on Insert and then Cover Page. And then I can choose a predefined cover page to insert into my documents. This one seems to match the colors I'm using, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that one. And now I can just go through this and update the information. So I'm going to give it a document title. So we'll call this the July 2014 newsletter. And we'll give it a subtitle. If I wanted to type a summary, I could. If I don't want to, I can just delete it. And that's all I need. So now I've built my document and I've formatted it. So if I go into my print preview, you'll see I have my cover page. I can click on Next. I have my table of contents. I have a header and a footer. I also can go through and preview my document, my smart art, and all of my formatting. If I wanted to send this out, I can click on Save and Send, and then I can immediately turn this into a PDF right from Word by clicking on Create PDF XPS Document. Or I can send using email, and I can immediately send as an attachment to somebody else. Any questions about that? Okay, so if you do have a question, please go ahead and type it in. I'll give you get a second to catch up. Otherwise, we can go ahead and move on to working with some tables. So I'm just going to put my cursor in the middle of the screen here. And there's two things about tables that I want to show you. The first is, I know we talked in the Excel session about how you can build formulas in Excel, but Word also allows you to do very simple formulas in tables. So I'm going to insert, or I'm going to create some data that I want to work with. So I'm just going to type in some numbers, and I'm going to tab in between each number. Now if I wanted to insert a table, I could highlight this text, go to Table, or Insert Table, and I can choose Convert Text to Table. When I click on that, I'll receive a wizard or a window that asks me how many columns do I want, how should I fit the text inside, and how do I know where to separate it? So is it a paragraph or is it a tab? I'm using tabs, so I'm just going to click OK. It'll automatically take that data and insert it into a table. I could have also gone to Insert, Table, and you'll see up here I have a little wizard for building my table. So as I select the different items or the different areas, it'll automatically start building that table for me. Again, I mentioned that you could do formulas. So if I just tab and create a new row of data, I can put my cursor in this last field, go to my Tables tool tab, click on Layout, and then go to Formula. Microsoft Office or Word will assume that I want to sum the data, so I'm just going to accept that and click OK, and it will sum the numbers above it. If I didn't want to sum, I could come back to Formula, and in my paste function, I can choose what I want to work with. So again, I have the option to do an average, a minimum, a maximum, or a round. So we'll just do an average. Let's just do that again. And it should average it for you. There you go. So that was the last thing I wanted to show you guys. I know we have answered some questions as we go along, but we do have some time left. So if anyone has any other questions, please feel free to submit them, and we'll try to go through them. Or we can, you can raise your hand and I can unmute you, and then we can talk from there. Well, this wraps up today's training call. Oh, here's a question. Can you import a table from Excel into Word? Yes, you can. So to do that, you're going to go to Insert, Table, and then you can choose Excel Spreadsheet. And then that will allow you to import data from Excel into, or that allow you to create like a little Excel spreadsheet in Word. There's another question. I want my team to be able to see these webinars. Where are they going to be on your website? We didn't have a good recording from yesterday's session. I'm hoping today's session will be significantly better. Once they're up on the website, we'll be sure to send out a link to them. I believe there is a webinar, recorded webinar section on it already, so it will probably be in that same location. I'm just going to scroll through these to make sure that I answered all of them.
We do have another question.
Okay.
And that was, how can you change defaults to be saved and used in all future documents that you create?
How do you choose defaults to be saved so that future documents have them? I think you can just go into, I think it should just automatically save it so that the next time you open up this document, those changes will be there. And if you're talking about, publishing that out as a template to be used, then you could certainly do that as well and change your normal template to use the item that you most recent, or the items with the settings the way you want it. Normally, I always work with the Office 2010. So as soon as I open up a new document and I choose my heading, it remembers those settings from the previous one. And then I think Sarah has her hand raised. So Sarah, I'm going to unmute you and let you ask your question. Hi, Sarah. Can we hear you?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. I'm sitting here with a group in our office, and we have created documents where, for example, we'll change from the normal spacing to no spacing. And we'll save that document, move on, and when we open a new document, again, we're back on normal spacing. Is there a way to change the defaults, maybe the font, the space, you know, the font size, the font style, all those things, somewhere in the background where every time we open and create a new document, those preferences are saved?
Yes, you should be able to do that. I don't know off the top of my head where you save those style sheets. I believe it's just saved to the normal dot template. I can follow up on that and let you know.
Oh, that'd be great. If you can just email me a response, that'd be super.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that wraps up today's questions. We'll go through the questions again after the session, make sure we've answered everything. We'll follow up on setting the defaults. If you guys have any other questions between now and then, please be sure to send them to us. I will put my contact information up on the screen. Otherwise, I thank everyone for joining us. If you attended all 3 sessions, thank you, especially to those who stuck around yesterday for the entire Outlook session. I know that the audio issues are pretty bad. So thank you very much, guys. I really enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you soon.